Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. The series is going to be called Ramblings on Reading. It's basically just going to be kind of a blurb where I talk about some of the things I've been thinking about in regards to reading, maybe some of my tips or whatever, but really just my thoughts on where I stand as far as a reader goes, and each one will be a little bit themed. And today's video, if you've read the title, you'll know, but just going to be on how to avoid burnout and not necessarily how to read faster. Well, not how to read faster, but maybe how to read more, or just how to enjoy reading, if you will. And obviously, these are just my thoughts, just from my personal experiences. I know everyone's going to be different. I know some people that can read Malazan back to back to back, all 10 books right in a row, no breaks, no palate cleansers, if you will. But I am a reader who struggles with burnout. At times I can read what feels like a book a day, or 10 books a month, and then go 2 months without reading at all. And that's really what I've been conscientious about lately, and just doing things that keep myself fresh, and keep reading enjoyable. So the biggest one for me is obviously with burnout. I mentioned Malazan, but being okay reading multiple books and taking a break from a series. I'm a completionist by at heart, so it is really hard for me, or really easy for me to get lost in the progress of a series. And I think one of your driving forces behind reading shouldn't be to finish the book so you can kind of check it off the list, or put another notch on your belt, if you will. But you should just be reading to enjoy the story. It shouldn't be about finishing it, and nothing's wrong with that if that's one of your motivations. I think a lot of us, part of the reason we read is that satisfaction of finishing a book, and really the feeling of the progress and closing it. But it shouldn't be your main focus. At least for me, it shouldn't be, because it burns you out, or it burns me out rather, because and it's something I actively have to fight against, because the second you finish a book, you get that instant gratification, which we're so used to in today's world. But then you go to pick up another book, and if it's 1,200 pages like this one, and your main motivation is that feeling of finishing it, it can be really daunting. So I've kept that in mind as I went on a bit of a reading hiatus, and I really got back into it recently. But that's been one of my main focuses, is being conscious of, finishing a book is great, but it shouldn't be the driving force behind it, because it makes picking up another book daunting. And on that same note, being okay with not, you don't need, or I don't need to finish a series before I move on to the next series. It's okay to take breaks from series, if you will, while you're still reading. Continue to read, but being okay starting a new series and not feeling that pressure to finish it. And like I said, I feel like most of us readers, we're completionists by nature. It kind of goes along with the hobby almost. A lot of us love collecting books and getting a complete set, if you will. And that can really carry over, at least for me, into that feeling of I started this series that might be 5 or 6 books long. I need to finish it before I move on to anything else. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, certain series are certainly, really, really great and everything like that. But once again, it can just feel a little bit daunting of if you're starting a new series and there's 8, 9, 10 books in it, just almost feeling trapped in that series. And one of the things I've been more conscious about is, being okay, I can start a few series at a time and not feeling that overwhelmed, or not being overwhelmed by, oh no, I've read the first 2 in Red Rising, and the first 2 in First Law, and the first 2 in Faithful and the Following. It's like being okay with, that's fine. I'll get to them when I get to them. and not trying to burn myself out on one particular story. I mean, and it's all just almost tricking your brain into taking breaks when you're really not. If you've watched any of my reviews lately, you know when I'm not reading Malazan, you know I'm trying to focus on quick, easier reads, because if you know anything about Malazan, it's really dense, and I love it. It is my favorite series. Each book I read is just mind blowing to me. What Erickson has created, I'm absolutely loving it. And the main reason, just a quick tangent here, the main reason why I haven't reviewed any of the Malazan books is because when I first got into BookTube, I was already 5 or 6 books into it, and it just felt wrong, if you will, to review the 7th, 8th, 9th books in a series when I haven't touched on the first few books at all. And I think, so I'm loving the series so much, I told my wife last night, I was like, this Malazan is so unique and at least from everything I've read, and so thoroughly enjoyable, and really it's hard to describe, but it's just so, these books just do something differently, do something different to my mind. You know, just like the philosophy sprinkled in. I described it to my wife as like tickling your brain as you're reading. It just gives you a little bit something different. So I think once I finish this, and I'm on the 9th entry and there's 10, I think what I'm going to do is start a reread, and then kind of cover the reviews or do reviews on the books as I reread them. That way they're fresh in my mind, and there's so much to keep track of. I feel like I couldn't do the early books justice if I tried to do a review on them now, just because I read some of those books like a year ago, and they wouldn't be as fresh in my mind. So anyways, that was a long tangent on Malazan, but I'm not reviewing these books right now on the channel, and they are something that is consuming most of my reading time. So I do want to talk about them. But anyways, that's really what these videos are about, just being okay with going on tangents and rambling, as the title suggests. So Malazan has given me a lot of practice in avoiding burnout, just because they are so long and dense. And it really has opened up doors where it's like, okay, it's forcing me to go away from that completionist attitude, just because, you know, I never get through the series if the first thing I did when I picked up a 1,200-page book was, you know, try and feel that instant gratification or satisfaction from finishing it, just because it's just such a time investment. So it's really made me appreciate just enjoying what you're reading, for the sake of reading it, and then not rushing through stories, which I can do at times. I'm definitely guilty of. So while I'm not reading Malazan, I'm reading, if you guys have watched some reviews, you'll know I'm reading Discworld, which are just really, really fun, you know, easy reads. Terry Pratchett definitely sprinkles in a hefty amount of commentary. If you're into that and you know, you get enjoyment out of looking for that. But it's also something where if you just want to enjoy a fun story, you can also do that and turn your brain off, and that's great. And then, let me grab this book here. And then, obviously, if you've been watching my reviews, the other kind of fun palate cleanser, if you will, has been the Dresden Piles. So that's really been the main tool I've been using to avoid burnout, is just having palate cleansers. And these books are just more, you know, it sounds weird, but to say when you're talking about reading, but just having books where you can turn your brain off and enjoy a fun, entertaining series for the sake of it being fun and entertaining, and that's great, and it's made me appreciate books like this way more, and series that are just you know, a bit lighter. Dresden is turning into something a little bit denser, don't get me wrong, and there's nothing wrong with a light, fun book, but they're just really nice breaks. So that's been my biggest takeaway so far, and I do feel a lot fresher as a reader, a lot more fresh as a reader from doing that. And the other thing too is just not being afraid to read multiple books at the same time. I know in school, I think we're taught, or it's drilled into us, because in school, where most of us are exposed to reading for the majority of our childhood, you're reading to do a book report, or you're reading for an assignment, or you're reading for an exam. So there'd never be any reason for you to read multiple books at the same time, and you might even think that you don't want to impact, what you're remembering for the test or what have you. But as I've grown older, it's not that challenging to keep two separate stories separate, even if you're reading them at the same time, as long as they're different enough. And I mean, most of these fantasy series are so unique and different that, it'll, at least I've found, is really doable to keep them separate in your mind. And just being okay with that. If I'm getting Burnout on Malazan, being okay with going to my bookshelf and picking up the next Discworld book, or picking up a Dresden Piles. Just alone, I'm about 500 pages into Dust of Dreams, and I think I've read a Discworld book and 2 Dresden Piles along, and it kind of is drilling into me and really practicing the idea of, okay, my goal is not to finish Malazan as quick as I can. My goal is to enjoy it. And when I feel like it's just getting a little bit too dense, or I need a break, I just go to Discworld and Dresden, and it's easy for me to just turn parts of my brain off that I use when I'm reading Malazan, just purely because in Malazan you're trying to keep track of and stay attached to so many characters. So that's been really beneficial for me. So the main takeaway is, just as far as what I've learned when I'm trying to avoid burnout, is just, one, don't make your main goal finishing the book. Make your goal enjoying the book. And I know that sounds weird, as a goal should be enjoying, but I really mean that. Actively practice. Am I enjoying what I'm reading for the sake of enjoying it? If I'm not, maybe, one, it's okay to take a break, put the book down for a weekend. You don't always need to be reading. Or the other side of that is just being okay with setting it down and picking up something else. And yeah, that's totally fine and acceptable. After all, we're reading for pleasure. There's no rules here. These are all just tips, my tips that I found that have been working for me right now. Maybe in 3 months I'll be burned out and learn, some of these things didn't work as well as I thought they were. But yeah, just being okay setting books down, being okay, picking up different books, and just remember, the goal should be enjoying what you're reading, not necessarily finishing it. Although I think just as readers, innately, there's not too many better feelings than finishing a book, and I'm not, I'm not trying to downplay that or not acknowledge it by any means, but just enjoying what you're reading. So I hope you guys enjoyed this bit of a different video, and like I said, it's more just me rambling, just giving my thoughts on what I've been thinking about a lot lately as I read, and my own experiences with reading. I think it's important to share, because we're all, we all love reading, and it's important to I think, sometimes sit down and actually talk about the act of reading rather than the content we're reading. So I hope you guys enjoyed this different style video. If you have, let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know your tips to avoid burnout that you found, or let me know, honestly, if you're someone who doesn't struggle at all with burnout. I know plenty of people that read like 100 books in a year and they don't take breaks. They'll finish series, back to back. They read really dense books. So it's definitely not something everyone struggles with. So let me know if you're one of those people. But like and subscribe if you're liking the content. I do enjoy the interaction. And I will catch you guys in the next one.